First, I must warn you all that this will include spoilers for portions of the early game, and some discussion of later story chapters in the game's first region of Mondstadt. If you're trying to wait until release of the game to see anything from the opening cutscene, you should click away now, and consider returning once you've completed the Mondstadt story chapters after the game has released, as the opening cutscene and later developments are crucial to the theories in my video. So this is an official spoiler warning. However, if you're okay with sticking around, my true goal is to give you some insight into the roles of both Lumine and Aether, in hopes of helping you achieve a richer story experience by providing you with greater context when you dive into Teyvat for the first time. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive in. Recently, we were given a new story trailer for Genshin Impact, one that's seemingly more telling than the trailers past. But actually, it gives rise to many more questions than answers. Each time I rewatched the trailer, I found myself pondering even more questions and wanting to dig deeper into what we've seen in an attempt to explore what sort of conflict may be on the rise between the story's chosen main character and their sibling. For this video to maintain consistency, we will assume the main character is Aether and the sibling is Lumine, as is depicted within the newest story trailer. With that said, what is her true goal? And also, how powerful has she become? Within the opening scene, we see that Paimon is speaking with the story's main character, in our case, Aether. He explains that he's been separated from his sister and has no idea how long it's been. It's been a few seemingly uneventful months since he awoke, aside from rescuing Paimon, who proceeds to give Aether direction for the first time. But Lumine, on the other hand, awoke from her imprisonment in a very different situation.
Outlanders, your journey ends here. Who are you? The sustainer of heavenly principles. The arrogation of mankind ends now.
In the first moments after Lumine appears to have been released from her imprisonment, she appears possibly still in the abode of the Archons, Celestia, during a time of great strife, everything around her falling into chaos. As she flees for her life, unable to use her inborn powers to their fullest extent, she stumbles on a great horror. But that horror is not fully apparent to us as viewers, without some additional information. For that, we must look elsewhere. Genshin Impact's official website shows a description of Teyvat, which mentions that the land was turned upside down after the collapse of an ancient civilization 500 years ago. I believe the trailer may be giving us our first glimpse at what occurred at that time. The scene is a grim one. We cannot be certain, but it appears to depict the lands east of Mondstadt, the same area, I believe, in which Aether would one day find Paimon and begin his journey. The jagged mountain edges and valleys seem to match with the location of what would later become the site of Aether's first experience with the Statue of the Seven. Exploring the area further provides further evidence. If comparing again to the scene of destruction, you can see a great many ruined structures. In the same area, in the current time, lies many old ruins of now forgotten origin. Where did the inhabitants of these ruins go? I feel strongly that these cubes floating ominously are the inhabitants. A civilization erased from existence. But how? Or why? In order to support this theory, it's important to understand both Aether and Lumine's position before they were separated. The twins traveled to many worlds, side by side, but when they arrived in Teyvat, they found a world engulfed in a horrible war. Its people frightened and confused. Instead of finding a world full of wonders, they found one full of despair. They decided it would be better to take their leave of Teyvat but were blocked by a god calling herself the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. Whether this is her actual name, or simply the title she's given herself as she enacts her will, we still don't know. She proclaims their journey has ended. She recognizes them in this moment to not be native to Teyvat, but blinded with rage and determined to cleanse Teyvat of human arrogance, she grants no amnesty to the two Outlanders. She will punish all of mankind. While writing this theory, I began to think more and more about who is the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. Is she one of Celestia's chosen Archons? It doesn't appear as such. She doesn't conform to any of the known elements. It could be that she appeared from another world, or even another timeline, bringing with her a grudge against all humanity, no matter where they're from. It will hopefully all become clear with time. But meanwhile, I keep coming back to the same question. If she is an Archon, born of Teyvat, what did mankind do to drive her to such actions? Did the ancient civilization of the past suggest themselves to be superior to the gods? Did they discover the great secrets of Teyvat, allowing them to ascend to Celestia and become Archons themselves? If so, was the Sustainer looking upon these new arrivals as usurpers? These are questions I do not yet have the answers to, but the wrath incited as a result of whatever transpired clearly suggests that it was heinous to the Sustainer. With no empathy, she does not differentiate the Outlanders from the other humans of Teyvat. To her, they're another threat. If she lets them leave, they may return. So she attempts to imprison each of them using her godly powers. These strange cubes. The same cubes that would later be seen by a horrified Lumine floating above the lands of eastern Mondstadt. Wiped clean from the lands, where they've been taken to is unknown. They may have been completely absorbed by the Sustainer, becoming a source of energy for her, but that's speculation for now. If that is the case, how or why did Lumine and Aether manage to escape? Maybe the twins not being from Teyvat made them immune to the full effects of the Sustainer's magic. Or maybe it is possible that she only intended to strip them of their magical abilities in order to cruelly leave them to their fate with the rest of the inhabitants below. When watching closely, you can see as she was attempting to absorb them into herself, she gives Aether a tell, possibly intentionally, causing him to recoil and catching Lumine off guard. But when Aether is enraged after his sister is absorbed, the Sustainer's attempt on him goes a little differently. When enveloping Aether in a prison of his own, his powers seem to fight back a bit. It's not enough to stop the magical cubes from overtaking him, but the reaction does not seem to go exactly as the Sustainer expected. I believe this is what results in the twins being separated in time. Aether sent 500 years into the future, in a world now healed by time, and Lumine left in the present to fend for herself in a world ravaged by an angry Archon, becoming emotionally hardened, having survived and witnessing the loss of so many lives, while uncertain of the fate of her brother, driving her to seek vengeance. Lumine's experience in Teyvat is clearly very different than that of Aether's as a result of the time difference, but it might go deeper than that. After Lumine and Aether's imprisonment, while this may have simply been an aesthetic choice by the developers, you may notice, when Lumine awakens, the magical glow that emanates from her clothing is still there, suggesting that some degree of her power or magic may still be intact. However, Aether awakens in the future, with his magical glow having gone completely dark. Was his power drained more harshly as a result of fighting harder to prevent the Sustainer from stripping him of his powers and banishing him back to the lands below? His magical glow does not begin to manifest itself again until resonating with the first statue of the Seven in the lands where, unbeknownst to him, 500 years earlier, Lumine would bear witness to a terrible atrocity. Even then, rather than the glow emanating white as it did originally, it emanates a bluish-green hue in alignment with that of the animo element. With that established, it's possible now that having been caught off guard, Lumine may have expended less energy in defense of the magic, and due to the theorized partial immunity to the Sustainer's powers, began her journey with a bit more of the power that makes the twins unique, allowing her to easily assert dominance over the creatures and demons remaining in the world in the aftermath of the Archon's wrath, possibly then forming the Abyss Order in an attempt to play the long game. The goal? Get even with the Sustainer in hopes of regaining her true powers, and then find out what happened to her brother. It's likely that Lumine in her travels would find and interact with the many statues of the Seven herself as she persists through the ages, resonating and absorbing elemental powers in much the same way her brother would many years later. In the absence of a vision, this could make her stand out across the land as something of an Archon herself, as they are known to not require visions to control the elements in which they are specialized. But Lumine, if completely like Aether, should be able to control all of the elements, a substantial advantage when attempting to gain enough power to overthrow the gods. Additionally, to me it is clear in the trailer, the crushing of the dandelion symbolizes the loss of Lumine's innocence. She no longer has the luxury of empathy. She will do what she must to achieve the power necessary to see her goals realized, losing sight of her original purpose with each immoral act. Consumed with anger and hatred for the Archons of Teyvat, for allowing such an injustice, she wages her war with destiny. However, she may not be completely gone. For the briefest of moments, she returns to her former self when informed that her brother is alive and interfering with her plans, letting her guard down for the first time in what's probably been centuries and opening her heart to truly feel something. But after rushing to see Aether for herself, she rejects the idea of reuniting with her brother, her heart still so consumed by hatred or shame. She can't face him. She convinces herself that once she's completed her journey, Aether will understand. Her expression and vocal tone is that of one that, to me, suggests Lumine truly wants to reveal herself to Aether. For 500 long years, she's likely dreamt of finding him alive and safe. Their separation, of course, being one of the driving factors for her revenge. But she stops herself, haunted by the pain the Sustainer caused, and knowing Aether will distract her from her goal. But also, in her heart, knowing that she's changed too much. Aether is not going to approve of her role as the Queen of the Abyssal Order. She doesn't want to fight Aether, and she's come too far to stop. So she turns away from her brother, satiated in that moment, knowing at least that he's still alive and seems to have been spared from the hell that she experienced. It's not exactly clear how Lumine's plans to unravel Teyvat will play out, or if she's tied to the Fatui's 11 Harbingers plot to steal the Gnosis from each of the 7 Archons of Teyvat. If she is, then it leads to the thought that Lumine must be very powerful indeed, as villainous characters usually only serve the master out of fear. More support to suggest that they are in league is even when holding all the cards, La Signora simply allows the Outlander to be released when she could have easily captured or defeated him there. Why leave him unscathed if not for Lumine's demand for Aether's continued safety? An additional thought on future story and character development: despite the difference in motives, Aether and Lumine may still reunite under a common goal at some point to regain their ability to depart from Teyvat. At least, we can hope the twins' fate could be so lucky. It's unclear if Lumine's approach even leaves room for her to be among the redeemable. As such, it's equally, if not more, possible Aether will have to stop Lumine first to protect Teyvat from the effects of her war with destiny. And so there we have it. Lumine was devastated emotionally after being separated from her brother before witnessing the reckless destruction of a once thriving civilization 500 years ago, and has been driven to wage war against the gods of Teyvat. Having weathered the world of Teyvat for that 500 years, she's gained quite a bit of power by pulling the strings of dark organizations. Meanwhile, Aether, still freshly separated from his sister and adventuring through Teyvat, is unaware of his sister's manipulations. The twins' path will certainly cross again, but for better or worse, it is yet to be seen. What do you think of Aether and Lumine? I'd love to hear your thoughts on them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon so that you get notified when the next video goes live. Thanks for watching Teyvat Historia. May the 7 guide you, travelers.